Now, what if somebody is really busy, and their
Well,
partner
let's
does
face it,
require that
Steve.
quality time? You know what I mean? I think I saw that on the feedback actually.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You know, I get this a lot, Steve, from
Yeah. Here it is.
couples.
Bonnie
Go ahead.
Utley in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My husband's language is quality time, which we had plenty of until our kids came along. I love him more than ever, but it's very difficult to fill his tank with very little free time I have. Any suggestions?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very common question because quality time is hard to come by in a busy world. And when you put children into the mix, you know, you have not only your vocation, you have the children. And often what happens is we don't have time left over for each other. So we can go days and sometimes weeks, and the husband and wife never really have any quality time. And if one of their primary languages is quality time, I can tell you their love tank is going to be empty. So what I say is this: we make time for breakfast. We make time for lunch. Well, making time to speak your spouse's love language is fully as important. Once they're alive, if you want them to stay alive emotionally, then you've got to learn and make time to speak their language. So it's a matter of schedule. Everybody has the same amount of time. We just choose what we do with it. And if you know that your spouse's language is quality time, then you find a way to make time to be with each other. This can be, if the children are young, it can be putting the children to bed earlier. I'm amazed at how many 3-year-olds I see in grocery stores at 10 o'clock at night. You know, 3-year-olds ought to be in bed. But, you know, you put the kids to bed earlier to give a little extra time. Or there's all kinds of things you can do. You can swap out babysitting with friends. And so they keep your children one evening, you keep their children one evening, so that the two of you can get out and have a little quality time together. So there's lots of ways to make it work, but it's really a choice, and then we have to decide, how can I rearrange some things so that we can have quality time.
Well, it's wonderful that Bonnie can, and I think obviously because of this book, it's wonderful that she can at least identify that his love language is quality time and she hasn't been giving it to it, instead of so many couples that are in the dark that she just noticed there's a shift, something's different, he doesn't seem happy, she's not sure why. At least she can identify that this is the issue, and now after hearing you, she could make the adjustments that she needs.
And I think, Steve, that's one of the values of this book, is that a lot of couples know that things aren't really going very well. They just don't know why. They know they don't feel loved, but they don't know why. And this book helps them understand why they don't feel loved or why their spouse doesn't feel loved.
Exactly, and I'm sure I was telling the story before that whenever I, as a bratty kid, I lashed out and said, "You don't love me," to my parents. I'm like, how could we possibly show you any more? We're doing everything we can, and so this book sheds so much light on just the communication of that love and the effectiveness of it. The third one is receiving gifts.
Steve, my background academically is anthropology. I have an undergrad and a graduate degree in anthropology, the study of cultures. We have never discovered a culture in which gift giving is not an expression of love. It's universal to give gifts as an expression of love. Now, the gift doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, the gift doesn't have to cost anything. Most mothers received a dandelion from their children somewhere along the line. The kid went out in the yard, picked the dandelion, brought it to their mother. Well, so I say to men, maybe you could go out in your backyard and find a flower and just pick it and bring it into your wife. Or if you don't have flowers in your backyard, maybe you could go to your neighbor's yard and ask them, and they'd give you a flower. But, you can be walking across a city parking lot and pick up a stone and take it home and give it to an 8-year-old son and say to him, "Hey, man, I found this thing today. Look at the colors in this stone. I wanted you to have this." I can almost guarantee you it'll be in his dresser drawer when he's 23, and he'll remember the day you gave it to him, and especially if gifts is his primary love language. So gifts is one of the fundamental languages of love. It's not the expense. It's the thought. We've always said this. It's the thought that counts. But I like to remind people, it's not the thought left in your head that counts. It's the gift that came out of the thought in your head.
And do you find that that becomes a conflict a lot? That where people they do the same thing, that the spouse or the husband may come home with gifts all the time and it still doesn't resonate as well as they think that it would, because you tend to react based on your love language. So if your love language is receiving gifts, then you tend to give a lot of gifts. Is that the way that it works?
Yeah, typically that's true. You typically speak your own language. What you want to receive is what you do for other people. Now, there's some exceptions to that. You know, here's a husband who grew up in a home where his father always gave gifts to his mother. And he said to his son, now, son, don't forget a birthday. Don't forget an anniversary. You know, and just give her gifts on other days. You know, give her gifts. This is the way you win a woman. Give her gifts. Give her gifts. So he learned how to give gifts. But that's not what he wants. He learned that from his father. So he's speaking a language that's not his own, and that's sometimes the case. But about 75% of the time, the language people speak most often is the one they wish to receive. But you're right about the gifts. A lot of husbands will go out, you know, and spend a lot of money and buy a wife a gift or give her a whole series of gifts, and he doesn't get the response that he wanted. You know, she may say, well, honey, thank you, or this is nice, or you know, she makes a positive comment, but he wanted to see her go out of the roof. You know, he wanted to see excitement here.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right, because he put a lot of money in this or a lot of thought into this. But you see, gifts may not be her love language. Her love language may be acts of service. And if so, it would have been much more meaningful to her if he would have vacuumed the floor for her or painted the bedroom or something else that she wanted him to do. So we have to understand that, you know, people don't always respond the way we want them to respond because we're not speaking the right language to them. They're not getting out of it what you think they should get from it.